Hello Math 133 students. In this video I'm going to help you figure out how to get your MyStatLab code and get it working as well as StatCrunch. Okay, so I talk about this in the welcome letter email, so I can open that in a new tab. I also discuss this down here under the technology links and help. It's this BibliU and MyStatLab thing, and technically StatCrunch is rolled into it. So let me try to explain. Okay, so, oops, let me zoom in a little bit since that's so small. All right, so in a previous video I discussed the course pack and how you get access to that. MyStatLab is actually also access to StatCrunch, was the software that we're going to use for this course. Okay, so how do you make this work? And MyStatLab, to be fair, might be something we also use. So you click on this link and it'll have MyStatLab registration instructions for you. Now these are different for a couple different sections. So for example, this current one that we're looking at right now is for my online students. If you're a face-to-face student, you have a similar welcome letter and you have your own MyStatLab registration, and it'll say Math 133.03 at the top. And the difference really is that you have a different code. So online students, your code is Tucky 78996. So if you click on this link right there, it'll take you to Pearson's website, and it should help you register and log into that. If you're in the face-to-face class, you would click on this link for you, right? And then you would sign in. Now, if you've never taken a Pearson product before, if you've never used Pearson, Pearson's a publishing company. So if you've never had a college class that had Pearson, or you don't have a Pearson account, then you're going to have to create an account and all that that entails, right? You'll have to have an email address, confirm your email address, create your username, create a password, etc., 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 right? And your role would be as a student, okay? So it would take all of those things. If you are going to do this route, if you don't have a Pearson account, then make sure you write down your username and password somewhere that you can access, that no one else can access, because your instructor is not going to know what it is. I can't tell you the number of students that have emailed me halfway through the semester saying, do you know what my password is? And the answer is no, I do not. I do not know your password. So make sure that if you're going to create the account, or when you create the account, you remember your username and password, because otherwise you're stuck on this sign-in page not remembering your username and password. And it's all well and good to think, oh, my browser remembers me. Well, sure, your browser remembers you until you delete your history or clear your cache, and then it doesn't remember you anymore. So have it written down somewhere. All right, so I'm going to sign in as myself. And then it's going to say, hey, you want to register for this course. What course do you want to register for? It honestly might be a little weird with me because I'm an instructor. It might not like, yeah, it already, yeah. See, I already have access to this title, and so this isn't going to do us a lot of good. But what it is going to ask you for as a student, and it's all in these instructions right here. It's going to say, hey, when you sign in with your Pearson account, it's going to say, select any of these options available. And the answer is enter a prepaid access code. You have access to this. And if this doesn't work, then do the temporary access. Do not pay for it with a credit card. It's already paid for by the college. So we've got to figure out how to get it paid for. So do not ever take out your credit card or PayPal and pay for it right there. Say that you want to use a prepaid access code with your books from the bookstore. Lovely. And when that happens, it's going to say, okay, then give me the code. And this is where you have to double back to your course. And over here on the left, there's a link that says BibliU. It's underneath people and grades and all of that. I might shift where it is, but that's where it is right now. So I would click on the BibliU link, and that'll open a new window to BibliU. And what you should see under your books, there might be textbooks for other classes, but there should be a courseware key that says Sullivan Statistics, blah, blah, blah. If you click on that, it's going to have a code. Now, don't use mine because mine's already used up, right? Everybody gets their own code. It's different for every single person. You click copy the code, and then you go back to Pearson, and in this window it'll be asking you for that code, and you'll be able to paste that code, and away you go. I can't show it to you because I'm an instructor. It knows that I'm the instructor of this course, and it's not going to let me do this. But for you as a student, it'll ask you to paste the code. You paste the code, and away you go. So that's where you get it. So when it wants your course ID, So that's one thing. Course ID for my online students is right here, but it's also in those instructions. So when you're in the instructions, it's course ID right there, Tucky 78996. Face-to-face students, for me, it's Tucky 61704. And if you're watching this for some other instructor or some other class, it would be right there. There'll be a course ID right there. And then it'll ask you to say you paid for it. So the course ID is saying, hey, Pearson, I want access to this course. Pearson, give me access. And then it'll say, sure, prove you paid for it. That's what the BibliU code does. The BibliU code proves that you paid for it, quote unquote. All right? And then you should be all good to go. And you especially want your Pearson username and ID. And the reason you want that is that will also get you access to StatCrunch.com. StatCrunch.com is owned by Pearson. If you'll notice, it has this P in the top left corner that looks a lot like the Pearson logo, because it is. So they bought it several years ago. It used to be an independent software, and then they bought it. So to make StatCrunch work for us in the course, you're going to have to use the sign-in over here. So you'll have to use that same username and password for Pearson that you do to get into MyStatLab. So this sign-in username and password is very important. Not because of MyStatLab so much, I mean, although that might be the case for you or your class, but also because of StatCrunch, because it gives us access to that. So that's how we will access StatCrunch. When you click sign in, see now there's more things turned on. All these links are now active down here. And you can see my username is up here in the right corner because I'm actually in my Pearson account when I'm in StatCrunch. All right, I hope that helps. Let me know if you have any more questions.